Thank you all for joining us today. We are really excited to hear your journey story. I know it might be a little overwhelming to speak in front of all of us, but you did so well yesterday, so you're going to kill it. I'm going to start by introducing myself. You've met me, of course, but I'm Ashley Gates. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. I came to Edwards because I really believe in helping people, and I also have a personal connection to structural heart disease. My upcoming father-in-law and his father actually both had congenital heart defects, so I'm really passionate about what we do here and what we do here in critical care to help patients just like you who've gone through similar journeys as well. So thank you both for being here. I want to start out with some quick things to expect. We want to hear from both of you, Darcy and Russ. You went through this together, and so I'm going to try to open up a safe space for you to feel comfortable opening up. Of course, if there's something that you don't want to share, please let me know. We can just move on. And then at the end, I'll open it up to the group for a Q&A. They may have questions for you as well. So yeah. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No.
All right. So I'm going to ask you both to introduce yourselves, including where you're from originally, where you live now, and how you like to spend your free time.
You're the star. You go first.
So I'm also from the Bay Area.
Oh, really?
From Los Gatos, for those that know that area. I lived there until I was 25. We met in college, got married, and then moved down to Carlsbad. So we've been down in this area for 22 years now. I grew up playing volleyball. That's been my thing most of my life. I was always very active. Devin down here, some of you know Devin. We used to paddleboard with great whites out in Dana Point. Almost got eaten a couple times. Spare time, I work in marketing. In my spare time, I like making wood bowls. That's kind of a hobby I've taken up. I like 3D printing and 3D scanning, and I just like stuff. This place is pretty cool because in another life, maybe I could have been an engineer or something. So you guys have a pretty awesome job here. So,
I'm Darcy. I forget what I have to say. We moved down to Carlsbad, but we don't live there anymore. We live in North Tustin. We have 4 kids, 19, 17, 15, and 12. And I love pickleball. I know you guys have courts, and that is very cool. And I love to read and, just be around people mostly. I think that's all.
You did well. Thank you. So I want to also call out that every single question I ask Russ, you can feel free to answer Darcy. And would you please tell us, Russ, what the condition was that you were diagnosed with recently, and if you knew much about it going in, and especially if you knew that you were being monitored with Edwards products during your surgery?
Yeah, so I had a quadruple bypass a year ago, and I knew it was an emergency. Some of you probably heard this yesterday. I knew nothing about it. I thought I had asthma and heartburn, like really bad asthma and heartburn. And I had a lot of trouble breathing when I would work out. And that's what I noticed. I just kind of grunted through it, as a lot of guys do, until I got so bad. I told Darcy I need to go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor and spent the mistake that I made is I told the doctors that I thought I had asthma, and unfortunately they ran with that. And so I spent the next 5 or 6 months having my lungs tested every possible way you can have your lungs tested. which was the last thing they should have been doing, but that's the direction they went down. So 5 or 6 months passed by. I finally met with a pulmonologist, and his comment to me was, we can't find anything wrong with you, and we're just going to chalk this up to long COVID, is what he said. And that was it. And that's how they were going to end it. So I knew something was wrong. I had no idea what was wrong. I just knew something was wrong. It just didn't sit right with me that long COVID was, the issue I had. So I pushed him. I asked him if I could do a cardio stress test, because I had heard someone mention like 5 months ago that maybe that would be something they would do as a cardio stress test, but they never did that. So he said it's not going to show anything, and then I said, can I just do it? And this went back and forth for about, a minute. So he finally caved and said, sure, I'll schedule the test. So I went in 2 weeks later and just totally bombed the test. I thought a cardio stress test was, something out of Rocky, where you've got the mask on and you're just going 100 miles an hour and sweaty and there's music playing. That's what I thought it was. I get in there and the nurse says, even old ladies can do this, so it's okay. That's what she told me. I'm like, what am I doing? She's like, you just have to walk on a treadmill slowly. It's like, oh, I can do that. So she hooked me up to everything. I started walking. I didn't get more than 3 minutes into it before I was shaking, sweating. I almost passed out. And she's like, I don't think it's your lungs. I think something else is going on here. So she went out and got a cardiologist, which again, probably should have happened 5 or 6 months earlier. He comes in, and I don't know what it is that they see on the EKGs or whatever, but he's like, you have a blockage. I don't know how bad it is. I don't know how severe it is, whatever, but we can't let you go. And so I was in an ambulance an hour later. They did the angiogram, and he came in and said, you've got 4 blockages, and one of them was in the upper part of my, the widowmaker artery, and it was 98% blocked. And I had just been doing hill sprints with my daughter the night before, and as soon as he said that, I don't know, I think it went to 99% blocked right after he said that, because I got stressed. And then he told me we have to do open heart surgery tomorrow. So for me, it was just this mental, I can't really describe it. It was just surreal. I'm thinking I have asthma or bad heartburn or something, and the next day they're going to crack my chest open. So psychologically, I had no time to prepare. I had no idea what was going to happen. I've had knee surgeries before, and I'm maybe kind of weird. I like being put under. Just that I don't go to sleep very easy, and so I like someone knocking me out. And so at first I thought, oh, this should be fun. I mean, I can, they'll knock me out and I'll wake up and I'll be fine. I had no idea how traumatic it was going to be, how much it was going to hurt. It was just horrible, but I didn't know that. They didn't tell me anything. The anesthesiologist came in, I guess it was maybe that night or the next morning. And all he said, I asked him if it was going to hurt, and he said yes. Not the procedure, but afterwards. And that was it. Like everyone was just so I don't know if I'm painting like a terrible picture of how the care, but they were taking it very seriously, finally. And yeah, the next day I had that surgery, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
I'll answer the part he
Yeah.
forgot to answer, which was about the monitoring of you asked if he knew there'd be Edwards monitoring.
Oh.
And he didn't know, but I noticed when he came out, and he's hooked up to I don't even know how many things. I mean, the tower of things was crazy, and the cords. And I remember I saw there's this one coming out of his neck that he just hated.
This one.
More than anything, just because it made his moving his head annoying and it hurt. But I was like, this is Edwards. This is Devin's company. So I took a picture of it and I sent it to Devin. He's like, oh yeah, that's the Swan-Ganz, and I was like, okay, yeah, he knows what that is. And so, yeah, I guess, I'm assuming they used it in the surgery also, but for sure, I paid attention to I don't know exactly which readings it did, but I'm the type that I like to know what I'm looking at so I would kind of tell him, like, you need to breathe deeper now. I don't know if that's one of the things that it tested, blood oxygen, but I did notice all the different things that it was telling us, because once it was gone, like, that screen was pretty empty, because it wasn't telling us much anymore. But that's when he was doing better.
Yeah, you were watching along on the
Yeah.
monitor. Did it feel good, or did it make you feel better, more secure to watch along on the monitor while he was in?
No, that's why I would ask what they were for,
You
because
wanted to
I
know
would
what's
see,
going on.
like, I think it was always having to do with his breathing, because, it hurts so bad to breathe, after your chest is open, I assume. I mean, he definitely was in pain.
It was painful.
And so if I would see I think it was blood oxygen or something the number going down, or I don't remember which way or another, but I just knew it was not where it should be, and I would be like, you need to breathe more. You have to breathe deeper. Like, your number is not good. And it would set off an alarm too.
Oh,
And the alarms were constant. So it was like, let's try not to have all the alarms. So it was very helpful to me, at least. I mean, I was the one watching it. He's, too worried about trying to not be in so much pain.
yeah. Do you think if you had known more about that monitor and everything that he was hooked up to prior to the surgery, if you would have felt better throughout?
Well,
I know that's
Russ
a hard question.
thinks I'm weird, because I just naturally am not a worrier. I didn't think for a second that he wasn't going to make it through. I was worried about the pain he was going to be in after. So I don't know if that would have changed, but I definitely would have loved to know exactly what all those things meant, and, like, just because it would have helped me to help him maybe, or.
Yeah.
But I kind of asked myself. I still didn't know everything, but I'm sure, yeah, it gave me peace of mind for sure. But knowing ahead of time, I don't know if that would have changed. I'm
Right.
not sure.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you. Russ, in hearing your story today and a little bit of it yesterday, you pretty heavily advocated for yourself throughout your journey, and especially at the end there. Do you have any advice to people who may be going through something similar, or for people who are managing a health crisis, on how to listen to yourself, how to advocate for yourself during?
Yeah, I like the comment from lunch. I think it was the surgeon that was talking, and how he said, don't be intimidated or something like that, because you have a doctor in front of you with the white coat on and stuff. Doctors are great. I love doctors. Amazing things happen, but they're human. They make mistakes. And honestly, when I was in front of the pulmonologist, I almost didn't advocate. I was kind of, he's a doctor. I didn't want to say something at first, because he's flat out telling me we can't find anything wrong with you, and here I am saying there's something wrong with me. I mean, he should know, right? So I had this little battle in my head that was going on. But yeah, it's after going through that experience, I think it's interesting how what I came to realize is how intuitive I think we can be, our minds and bodies can be, when they're in a situation where they need to be that way. I think there's something inside of us that can kind of alert us. Our own sensors go off. And the doctors, there's nothing hooked up that they can see. It's our bodies telling us that. And if you don't say anything, then you're basically the monitor not saying something. And so, yeah, that's valuable. Thank you.
If you don't mind, trying to put yourself back into that moment when you first heard the words of your diagnosis, what is one word that comes to mind for you?
Probably disbelief, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Darcy, I'm not sure if you were there in the room with him. or if you heard after, but what's one word that comes to mind for you when you first heard?
This is going to sound bad.
It's okay.
Because this isn't one word, but I have to explain then. I had a pickleball weekend planned with my friends. And he called me from the stress test saying, they think I have a blockage. It probably would just be a stent. And then maybe bypass, but probably not. Or, the doctor even, I think, talked to me on the phone. And I'm like thinking, okay, if it's a stent, maybe I can still go. So then when he called me back after the angiogram, because that was so close, and we have all our kids, so I wasn't with them. And right when he said the bypass, I was like, I'm not going. But like I said, I don't know why I'm the way I am, but I was not worried that he wasn't going to make it. So I probably was disbelief also. Mm-hmm. But really, my first thought was, I'm not going to the girls' weekend.
I like the way your mind works. I'll switch with you. Thank you. What is one word that describes how you both feel at your current stage in this journey right now today?
Probably thankful. Yeah, I mean, I think you take life for granted until something derails your plans. I mean, when I heard I needed a bypass or 4 bypasses, the first thing that went through my mind was I'm not 80 years old. I mean, I just didn't know people my age or younger or whatever had bypasses. It just didn't make any sense to me. And so everything, I mean, this whole past year has been a nightmare on one hand, but I think I've grown a lot at the same time, and I just appreciate things more.
Yeah.
Like I'm willing to, things that would have stressed me out before, it's just like, could be worse. I mean, I could be dead right now, and so it kind of puts things into perspective.
That's beautiful.
I would say, I mean, it's almost the same thing, but I'm grateful, probably, just because I'm not a worrier. Like when he was, like you said, he was advocating for himself, and because I am how I am, I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm sure it's nothing, but yeah, something is weird, because he's always been extremely athletic, and I mean, both of us, we work out he's always working out. It's not like he fits any of those things for someone with quadruple bypass so young. But we were, actually, I think it was in April, so he had the surgery like a year ago, so May. I think in April, we were on that cruise. Yeah. We were on a cruise with my whole family up the coast and then down of California. And we're in San Francisco just walking, and he couldn't even keep up with us, which is the weirdest thing. It is not him at all. And it was kind of like, what is going on? I kind of lost my train of thought, but, that's the grateful. It's just something was off, and I wasn't worried, obviously, enough about it. But now that it's fixed and everything is back to normal, it's just a really nice thing and I'm the one that needs to be better about. I'm definitely not I'm more it'll be fine, don't argue with the doctor, do what that doctor says. So if I had been with him in those appointments, I would have probably been like, he said you don't need it, so just, it's fine. So it's a good thing that he doesn't always listen to me. So.
Something I just remembered, I hadn't thought about this, but it's kind of weird. Maybe someone here has an answer to this. Maybe this happens to other people. But for quite a few years before the surgery, I would tell Darcy, I think I'm going to die young. I would say that all the time. I just felt like I was going to die young. It was odd. And I don't feel that way anymore.
And I would roll my eyes every single time.
I was right, though, if it hadn't been for the surgery.
Almost.
So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but I really did feel like I was going to die young. I don't know. I don't know if that was, my brain just knowing that something was off, and you're gone here pretty soon unless you do something. I don't know, but that just popped into my head.
Well, I mean, the body is connected, right? And so on some level, you probably did know something was going on. And I'm really happy that you did really listen to yourself deeply throughout that journey. I'm wondering if you think your age was part of the reason clinicians maybe weren't taking you seriously as you were presenting with these symptoms.
Yeah, I can't think of any other reason. I've struggled with that because I came so close to not being here, and I think it could have been prevented, I'm alive, but something could have been done sooner. I got a call from, I think it's the head of, I don't know who she was. She was the head of, I think, cardiology for Kaiser in Southern California or something. This is about a month and a half after the surgery. And my dad and I sent a letter to Kaiser, and we were just like, this is ridiculous, because we went through all the notes and all the doctor's notes, chest pain, chest discomfort, chest pressure, every sign that if you'd think a doctor would read that and go, let's rule out the heart first, and then let's tackle the heartburn, right? Or, the other issues, but that didn't happen. And I asked her if she had any thoughts on why they didn't do this earlier. And she just said, you know what, on behalf of Kaiser, I'm sorry this happened. The only thing I can think of is that it was your age that made them just not think that was possible. It was my age, I was in pretty good shape, and the fact that I came to them probably sounding somewhat confident that it was asthma, I don't know, like I sort of planted that seed. Yeah. That's what she thought. That's the only thing I can think of, because the alternative is 3 doctors in a row just all completely didn't read every single sign that there was, but yeah.
Wow. Can you walk us through kind of the progression of your symptoms from maybe when you first remember them starting until right when they had increased to a point of no return, if you will? Kind of how long did that journey last, and what were you thinking throughout?
Yeah, I would say about a year before the surgery is when I first started noticing that it was hard to breathe when I was working out. So I'd go to the gym and do a rowing machine or something. Immediately, I just couldn't breathe. And it kind of scared me a little bit, because it wasn't just not breathing. It hurt so bad at times that I just wanted to fall over and literally die. Like, it was that kind of pain. But then it would go away pretty quick once I pushed through it. So I'd finish my workout and just shake it off. So that's when I first started noticing. And then the hike that she was talking about up in the Sierras. Oh yeah, well, with her family, that was the cruise. We went on a hike, or we were camping up in the Sierras, and we went on some pretty big hikes. And
It was in July or August, I think,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So I was in the back of the pack. I had my little, Brooke was probably like a 5-year-old, was like pulling me along, trying to help me. It was just weird. It was not me at all.
And he is very, like I said, athletic, motivated, like does hill sprints for fun. Like, he loves pushing himself. So we go to Lake Tahoe a lot. We hike a lot, and he is always the first person. He's like, I bet I could run up this, or something like that. And he was at the end, and he was wanting me to wait with him, and I'm like, what do you mean? This is so weird. And this was not a year, not a year before the surgery, but like 8 months or something before the surgery. So he already was definitely, something was weird. We were at high elevation too, so that I'm sure was a part, but that had never been a thing with him ever. So it definitely was strange.
Yeah, and it just kept getting worse. I would say it got worse until about December, and then it kind of plateaued, like the level of bad feelings. It was like, it just kind of stayed at a plateau for a little while. And then it got a little worse, and that's when I saw the pulmonologist. But what I was thinking during that time was, because I wasn't thinking it was my heart, obviously, I was just thinking, kind of like someone said in another session, I'm 45 years old. I guess I don't know, maybe I just hit some kind of age wall and this is the new reality for me, which for me was really depressing. I was like, really? Is that what happens when you hit 45? You just, that's it. So in a way, I was actually happy. That's another thought I had. When the doctor told me I needed bypasses, one of my first thoughts, besides being excited about being put under, one of my first thoughts was, there's a reason for all of this. Like all of a sudden it clicked. I was like, oh, okay, this is probably why I felt terrible for the past year. So, because it wasn't the lungs, all the other tests showed nothing. Yeah. And so I felt just lost. Like there's no reason for any of this. Mm-hmm. And so when they told me you have bypasses and it's really bad and that's almost 100% why you're feeling this way, I thought, okay, well, if I can get through this, I'll probably, hopefully be able to, resume my normal activities.
Wow. Were you almost relieved in a way then?
Yes, a little bit, yeah. Like terrified and relieved at the same time.
It's wild. That must have been a crazy feeling. I'm curious about, I know this all happened really quickly for you, but if either of you or both could try to remember what were, and like after the point of diagnosis, what were your interactions with the care team? So your surgeon, your anesthesiologist, if you can try to remember how much did they explain about the procedure beforehand? Did they explain what you were being monitored with or why? Or how any of it would go, what to expect after surgery?
It's all kind of a blur. I know it happened so fast. I met with the anesthesiologist for a few minutes. I think I met the surgeon for a few minutes. I knew absolutely nothing about how any of this would work. I knew nothing. I remember it was the night before, a few hours before the surgery. I was just laying in the bed, and that's when for the very first time, it kind of hit me. I started crying. I was just like, what is happening here? Like I hadn't felt anything yet. It just didn't make any sense. And then she came in at one point, and I just said, I'm scared. Like I've never said that before about something. I was like, I'm scared I'm going to die. Like it was just this crazy thing. But no, they didn't share any videos. They didn't explain what was going to happen, at least to me. Maybe they talked to you about it, but.
There were definitely there were different people that came in. I remember someone else mentioned this, and yeah, someone had he's like, they shaved my whole body. And that was weird for some reason, but they had lots of people came in and did explain some things, but it's true, you're so overwhelmed, it's not, you don't think much. I mean, I think, like a video, something like that would be nice. I don't remember them saying anything about monitoring, how they would monitor anything. I think you're just so overwhelmed, but I don't remember. I do just remember there were a lot of people that came in and talked to us, though, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. And how did your family react when you told them? Did you tell them up front? I know this happened within, it sounds like, 24 hours? You had found out and then went into surgery, so.
Well, coincidentally, my mom was scheduled for hip surgery. We were in the OR at exactly the same time. She was having her hip replaced at the same time I was having my bypass surgery. And so we told my dad, and he was in a pickle. He was like, I don't know what to do here. Like, if I tell my wife that her son is having a bypass surgery, she's going to freak out, and that's not going to help her situation.
He thought she was going to cancel her surgery.
Which
literally
she's
thought.
The type of person that would do that. I would tell her no, but she's like, I got to be up there. So it was kind of an interesting situation where two people at the same time, the family are having surgeries. So I didn't even see her or my dad until we got out of the ICU. So that was probably 7 or 10 days
Wow.
after it. But yeah, that was, I mean, everyone was kind of surprised. Actually, everyone was surprised except my mom, which is interesting. I don't know if it's like mother intuition or something, but she told me later, she goes, I knew it was your heart. I just knew it was your heart. But yeah, it was.
Well, he learned to be an advocate probably from her. She would be the perfect, I think it's a volunteer, so some people volunteer to be advocates for patients. She would be perfect for that. She loves to help and to talk to the doctors and really push them, but she couldn't be there. But yeah, his dad talked to me about it and was like, I can't tell her. She's gonna cancel her surgery, and it'll be fine, don't worry. And he's worried she was gonna hate him for not telling her. But Russ doesn't know. I mean, I was the one who had to tell our kids. One of them was in Utah in college, and the other 3 were home. They're young enough. I mean, the 2 in high school and a 6th grader. I think they were worried, but I think it helps that I don't worry so much, so they were fine. But my daughter, who I had to call and tell her on the phone, was pretty. She's definitely a worrier, and she wants to know every little thing. When is he going to have surgery? Who's going to do it? When is this? And she told me later that it was really hard. She kept texting me or calling me throughout the whole time he's in the hospital because she just wanted to know like exactly what was going on, and it was hard for her. But they took it well, so it was good.
I think what helped is that I didn't have a heart attack. Like the doctors were telling me, like, I'm not sure how you're alive. So somehow I dodged that bullet. Another funny story. So when I'm on my way to the hospital for the surgery, I was in the ambulance, and I was laying down, and I have all kinds of thoughts going through my head. And this big Polynesian paramedic is the guy that put me in the ambulance. And he just sits down next to me, and he's like, hey, how's things going? I'm like, I don't know. This is weird. I don't know am I going to die? I know what's going on. And he looks at, I don't know what he was looking at, but he had some kind of printout of what was going on with me. And he gets in don't do this. This is why I'm sharing this story. He looks at the printout he's got, and he leans over to me, and he goes, how are you alive? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I remember my heart was just fluttering. I don't know how fast it was beating, but I honestly thought that was it right there in the ambulance. So if you're a paramedic or you're in the hospital, don't do that, because I honestly thought I was going to die. I felt my heart was going to blow up when he said that, because that was the first time I think anyone said anything to me that made me even in any way realize how serious it was. It hadn't dawned on me how bad it was until he said that, and I figured, well, this guy's seen people die, so he wouldn't be saying that if it wasn't serious. So I'm starting to put all these connections together, and it wasn't good. So
Wow. Jeez. Maybe you should have gotten a different paramedic. So when you were in the ICU, you said you were there for about 10 to 11 days?
I think it was 10 days, yeah.
Yeah. I'm assuming your care team explained how long you were going to be in the ICU for, or what to expect in your recovery? And do you think that what their explanation was kind of matched your experience and helped you set up for recovery?
I don't think I remember. I mean, it was a blur. I don't think I remember them telling me you're going to be here for a certain amount of time. I was there a little longer because they actually, when they were putting the urinary catheter in for the surgery, they kind of botched that. So I was supposed to have surgery on May 3rd. They had to call in a urologist to put in the catheter, and it just didn't work out right, and so they had to postpone it a day.
Oh, wow.
So I've actually gone through 2 urethra surgeries since the bypass surgery. So I just had the other one 6 weeks ago.
Oh.
So it's been the gift that keeps on giving. This whole year is just something there's always something. But no, they didn't explain, at least to me, I don't think they explained too much about anything. The one thing I'll say, the surgeon, I think, did a great job. Didn't see her again. I don't know if that's normal, probably normal. The nurses were amazing. I loved the nurses, all the ICU nurses. I think they even called in the one nurse. She was a power lifter, and I think they called her in because I'm not small, and it was, you know, it was funny. There were a couple times where she's like, okay, we need to move you from this bed to this chair. And I remember the first time she came in, I was like, how are you going to do that? And she goes, there's a reason I go to the gym. And I was like, what? It was a little weird. And then she kind of flexed for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're bigger than me. And so she like just does this powerlifting stance and picks me up and puts me in the chair. And I mean, the nurses were incredible. The only thing I regret, I probably said some things when I was on so many pain medications, but I asked them to kill me a few times, which probably, I don't think they appreciated that because they're there to save me. It just hurt so bad. I just wanted to die. Probably the first 5 days I was there. It was just awful.
Wow.
I just wish, and I think I said this yesterday, I wish they would have, and maybe other places do that, I wish there were videos or something that they would proactively say, hey, look at this, because I don't remember them doing that, which would have helped me. I like to know, I'm the guy that does like to know everything that's going to happen. I know not everyone likes that. I'll watch my surgery before I have the surgery. I like all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And there just wasn't a lot of dialogue. Maybe that's because it was so quick.
There were videos we had to watch before you went home. Yeah. But
What were those videos?
like how aftercare stuff and what to expect. And just to give them a little more credit, because you were definitely out of it. They did tell me, I mean him, but more me, how long it would be and kind of what steps would have to happen before he could leave. And there definitely were, steps. And they said it would be probably, I don't know, around 5 to 7, but it was longer again because of what he was talking about with the complications. But they were probably more talking to me, I guess, because he obviously doesn't remember as much because of how much pain and medication and stuff. So,
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you had those complications. Was there anything else kind of unexpected that happened during your recovery, maybe after you left the ICU? How long did it take for you to start feeling better? And what was that post-ICU recovery process like?
Oh, I have lots of stories. I'm one of those guys, weird things happen to me. So my father-in-law, after we left the ICU, they have a place up in Big Bear, and he thought, you know what, maybe Russ can go up there, and it'll be nice to be up in the mountains and fresh air, and that'll help him get better, which is probably true, I guess. The problem is I had urethra issues because of all the scar tissue. There was just a lot going on down there. So we got up to Big Bear, and I didn't know it at the time, I had a really bad fever. It was like 104 or something. So I was just shivering, even though it was like 90 degrees outside. And that night, I couldn't go to the bathroom. I tried to go to the bathroom, and not a drop came out. And so I started panicking because of that. And that was on top of, being bolted together, and it was just kind of awful. And so I told him I couldn't go to the bathroom, and he's like, okay, well, let's go to the emergency room. I think there's an emergency room in Big Bear. Advice, don't ever go to the Big Bear emergency room unless you have to go to the Big Bear emergency room, because that was its own experience. I don't want to rag on him too much, but the head doctor looked like a meth addict. And it was not good. I told him I couldn't go to the bathroom, and so they they brought in like the most junior nurse I've ever, I mean, this guy was like 18 years old. And he comes in with 2 or 3 catheter bags, and he's like talking to the other nurse, the head nurse, which one of these should I put in? I don't know what to do. I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? And so he's like, let's try let's try the bigger one first because it'll drain better. I don't know if that's what should happen or not, but that's what he's saying. I'm just sitting there like, do something because I'm about to blow up. I have to go to the bathroom so bad. And so he's trying to get it in. It's not going in. He doesn't realize all the trauma that's been down there. He finally kind of gets it in, I guess, and it's just this stream of blood going into the catheter bag. And I'm looking at this. I almost threw up because I feel so terrible anyways. So he's like, I don't think this is working. He's saying this to the other nurse. So they take the catheter out. They tried another one and that didn't work. So they finally said, you need to go to like a real ER. So I stood up and there's blood all over the ground and it's just awful. So we get to the Kaiser in Fontana where I had the surgery. It took about an hour and a half to get there. And then they put me in a wheelchair that was rock hard. I had a really bad fever. I couldn't go to the bathroom, and I just had this surgery. So I was just kind of hunched over in this rock hard wheelchair with a few blankets around me. And we were there in the emergency room, me and my father-in-law, for 6 hours, 6 or 7 hours. And there was no priority. I mean, most people in there had a cough or something. I'm not saying that the cough isn't bad, but I feel like there should be some kind of priority in an emergency room, and there wasn't at all. So that was bad. I threw my back out while I was in the chair. They finally called me in, and long story. I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I just sort of pushed until it happened. Not to get all. You guys are all doctors, and I mean. It was like an explosion of everything inside of me came out. And anyway, so as far as what the recovery was like, it was probably a little atypical considering just the complications with the urethra and stuff. But the pain, I think, was probably fairly normal. I never wanted to sneeze or cough. I did once after 2 weeks, and I thought that was going to kill me. Like, it was just, wow. It wasn't fun. But I would say after about 3 months, I started feeling okay. And, I'm at a point now where I feel pretty good for the most part. The urethra surgeries are done, so hopefully, I think I'm pretty much there. It's been a year now, and I think that's, from what I've heard, that's pretty normal as far as like getting to a point where you feel pretty good again. That's great to hear. Well, not the whole thing, but that latter part there, I'm really sorry you experienced all of that. Is there, I know this is kind of a tricky question, but if one of your loved ones was in a similar situation, is there anything you would tell them to do differently? Or if you were trying to guide them through it to the best of your ability, how would you go about doing that? What would I tell them to feel better about it? Or maybe look out for when you're going through that care system, anything like in retrospect you would have or could have avoided if you had known? Yeah, I think education is really important. I mean, just obviously in life. I remember, this is a little off topic, but it'll make sense. I remember 20 years ago, I was on an airplane, and I hate flying. Or I used to hate flying. I don't know why. I would get all nervous that the wings were going to fall off or something, and whatever. I just had those kind of irrational fears. And I remember one time I think we were leaving from the Bay Area, and I was just like death grip on the armrests as we're taking off. And this guy, who a lot of you can relate to. He was this engineer. I didn't know that at the moment, but he was sitting right kind of kitty corner to me. And he looks back, and he kind of does a double take, and he can see I'm just like death grip on this thing. And he kind of laughs, and he goes, you kind of look like you're scared of flying. I was like, yep. How could you tell? I don't know. And he's like, well, what are you scared of? And I said, well, I think the wings are going to fall off. I just said that very matter-of-factly, like, that's just probably what's going to happen. And he goes, why do you think the wings are going to fall off? He starts questioning me, and I said, well, I don't know. I mean, look at them. They're just kind of bouncing and stuff. And he was like, well, I'm an aeronautical engineer, and do you want me to tell you how these airplanes are built? And I was like, sure, I've got nothing else to do here, but tell me how it's built. And so he goes through this whole lesson. I understood not much of it from an engineering standpoint. The one thing I do remember him saying is that they're built to basically withstand like 7 to 10 times whatever the weight of the airplane is, and it's designed to flap like that. And by the time he was done talking to me, I felt fine. And so my point, obviously, is that I think if you can explain things to people, if you can understand what their fear is, and then explain it to them in a way that they can understand. I mean, his understanding of airplanes is way beyond what I can, but he was smart enough to kind of dumb it down to where it made sense to a non-engineer, and I felt great. I was like, okay, and ever since then, I've felt fine flying. I haven't had that fear anymore, and it was because of that engineer that I talked to. Wow. So I think anyone that's going into surgeries or having any of these procedures done, the more you can explain to them, understand what the fear is, but then the more you can explain to them why you shouldn't be scared and how this works exactly and just all the mechanics of it. I think for most people, that's probably pretty useful. I know some people don't like hearing all the gory details of surgery, but I think there's ways to kind of, sugarcoat it a little bit. Right. And I didn't get that with my surgery, probably because it was an emergency. It just happened so fast. But I think the more that you can share with people, the better. And what I would tell a family member, I mean, if they were going through exactly the same thing I was going through, I'd probably sit them down, draw pictures, show them videos, explain it to them, maybe even call a friend or two that are doctors I know. Because I think once you understand the mechanics of anything that you're learning or going through or whatever you're scared of, once you understand the mechanics of it, I think it helps a lot, I think, when you do that.
Would you say that maybe that was a gap in your care experience then?
It was definitely a gap, but I don't know that there was time before for them to explain. Maybe they could have. I don't know. I mean, it was about a day before I actually had the surgery.
Maybe not. You're being very kind to this whole, all the providers throughout. You're being as kind as possible.
The surgeon, the ICU nurses, that was great. It was the 3 doctors before that all overlooked chest pain, chest pressure, chest discomfort. I don't know how that happened, but putting that aside, I've actually had a great experience with Kaiser. If anyone has Kaiser, I think it was just sort of a little anomaly that I had for some reason with Kaiser. Overall, I've been happy with Kaiser. So.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. So as we talked about a little bit yesterday, for us, our leader for algorithms engineering kind of explained where we're bringing our products into the future. And a lot of it has to do with predicting and preventing things that happen when you're intubated under surgery that could potentially cause serious complications. And we kind of think of this as clinician decision support, where we're enabling clinicians to do their jobs better and kind of see things that they might not be able to see until it's too late. And like Russ said yesterday, we use AI or machine learning to do so. And we have a lot of pride in really being at the forefront of innovation in this regard, and exactly what we're doing. And so I'm wondering how you feel. how you feel now, or if you would feel going into a surgery, if you knew you were being monitored by predictive decision support. Would you be scared? Would you feel better about it? I know that this is kind of a new frontier for us all.
Yeah, I love AI, and it also terrifies me. I work with it in marketing that I do, and I use ChatGPT for every other thing I'm doing these days. It's great, and it's awful at the same time, depending on how it's used. But I think if it's I actually really like it. Just walking around here, the stuff you guys are working on is pretty amazing. I think there's so much that can be done with AI. The more I learn about it, I'm just like, this is going to change everything in a good way. I think for the most part, in a good way. I would feel much better knowing that there's some kind of, maybe I'm weird, I don't know, but some kind of algorithm that's analyzing everything, because I mean, the bottom line is, as human beings, we miss stuff. I mean, we just do. And usually computers don't, for the most part, don't miss stuff if they're configured right. So I would feel better.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't like having the Swan catheter in, I mean, it was awful having a thing in my neck, but I knew it was monitoring me. And I remember, Devin had to leave, but I think I remember talking to him, or Darcy or someone talked to him, and he kind of explained how it worked a little bit. And I remember feeling a little better, like, oh, this thing monitors everything. That made me feel better, knowing that, despite all the stuff that just happened, this thing in my neck, even though I don't like it, is monitoring everything. And so that actually calmed me down a little bit once I understood why it was there and what it was doing.
Interesting. What about you, Darcy? How do you feel? How would you feel if Russ had another surgery and he was being monitored with something that used machine learning? How might you feel about yourself undergoing an experience like that?
I agree that I think it's great. I think using technology to better anything, especially if it can be predictive, because I think we're too often just trying to play catch up when we're like what happened to him, instead of finding it early enough. So I think predictive would be great. And if it's monitoring, especially during surgeries, and it can tell that something's about to go wrong, that seems amazing. So I love the idea of it.
Great. So we've got about 5 minutes left. I would like to open it up to the room to see if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask Russ or Darcy, both of them. No pressure. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious about considering what led up to your incident and the fact that you were stressing your heart so much before they found out what it was. Did they tell you about any possible damage or any consequences of that? Or is your heart functioning totally normally again?
That's a good question. I hope it's functioning normally at this point.
No, I'm pretty sure I think he asked, I remember him asking, is my heart fine? And no, his heart is
that, yeah.
fine. Yeah,
They
it
said
was fine.
The heart itself was good. It was just those blockages. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for sharing your experiences with us today. I have a question about, you're saying that you worked out often before the surgery and you were very fit. So do you ever use any kind of a smartwatch or any sort of wristbands that, monitor your heart rate, maybe your blood oxygen level or something like that?
I hate watches.
I wear a smartwatch.
I used to wear a watch, and I don't have a wedding ring on. I don't have a watch on. I just don't like things on me. I'm just like that. If it didn't bother me so much, I probably would wear a watch. Although, I don't know. I think for the most part, it's heart that it's monitoring. I think blood pressure would be nice. I heard there's some watches that do that, but they're kind of not that accurate or something. But I mean, if there was something that monitored a lot of things, I probably would wear it, actually. I'd kind of fight through the sweatiness and discomfort of having to watch on. But yeah, I think that stuff's great. I don't personally do it. Yeah.
What if it was a ring? Like an aura ring?
They have those rings, right? The aura or the,
Yeah, aura rings.
Ring.
He doesn't like rings
He
either.
doesn't like rings.
My dad watched a guy have his finger ripped off dunking a ball when he was in college, and that traumatized me. And then I saw a guy one time catch it on a fence, and it like degloved his finger. I just have just like the airplane wings, I have this irrational fear of rings.
See, he's the worrier, and I'm the complete opposite. So
Yeah, we kind of balance each other out.
Yeah,
but-
every relationship needs balance. Anyone else? We'll take one more. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you back into volleyball? We have a court here, we can play with you.
So I think the one problem with getting older, putting all of this aside, is that your joints start falling apart. So I am getting back into it. It's not going to be ever the same as it was, but I love playing volleyball. I'm trying to play with my son. But yeah, I wish if you guys can figure out a way to like stop the joint aging process, that would be awesome.
Cool, we're on it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for coming out to the patient experience, and especially for sharing your story with us. There are so many people, arguably everyone in this room, that will be really inspired and motivated by what you shared today. And it's definitely going to live on beyond this room as we continue to innovate and build products to help more patients' lives. So thank you.
Just want to thank everyone here for all you guys are doing. This event's, it's really great. The general, I mean, no one knows what's going on behind the scenes. That's why this is super unique, and just being able to see, like actually pretend like we know what we're doing as far as sewing heart valves and just seeing all of it was pretty cool. So I hope you guys keep doing this.
Well, and we also hope that our daughter could work here one day, actually. She is studying mechanical engineering in college right now. She tried to get an internship, but you guys rejected her. So she wants to do biomedical engineering, by the way, so it's perfect for her, just putting that little plug in. So she's going to try again next year. So I don't know if any of you guys are involved, but she's awesome.
We'll look out for her name. Thank you both. Thank you all for coming.